When you go to draw, do you often find yourself staring at a blank sheet of paper with no real idea where to start, where to put your pen, what to do? Is this a common occurrence for you? And the really frustrating thing is, you've been drawing for quite some time now, and you've put quite a lot of effort into learning skills, practicing skills over and over again. You've drawn along with a lot of step-by-step demos. You've done lots of exercises on drawing lines, drawing straight lines, close together, far apart, lines that are parallel, lines that meet together at a point, at a right angle, drawing circles, drawing all sorts of curves, doing different hatching patterns, cross-hatching patterns, stippling, drawing multiples of the same object at the same proportion and scale over and over again, drawing shapes to achieve symmetry, and so forth. You've spent all this time doing all these things, learning how to hold your pen properly, learning not to draw from the wrist, learning to draw from the whole arm, from the shoulder in fact. And yet still, when you go to draw, you find yourself looking at a blank sheet of paper, thinking, I don't even know where to start. I don't know what mark to put where. How can I have done so much and still not know how to start? I believe this problem comes from a misunderstanding about drawing. I think the misunderstanding can be clearly seen if we, for a moment, jump from drawing to carpentry or building and we think of a toolbox and the tools in our toolbox. Now, these tools represent all the different drawing skills that we may have worked at learning. Now, if I think of my real toolbox with my real carpentry tools in it, these tools, the hammers, the saws, the drills, the wrenches, the screwdrivers, the nails, and so forth, these are the things I'm going to use to build something. In fact, I will need these to build something for whatever I want to create. But if I'm going to start a project, these tools won't tell me what to do. They're sitting in my toolbox waiting for me to use them, but they in themselves don't tell me what to do. They don't give me the understanding that I need. I need to have some plans. I need to have a blueprint. I at least need to have an idea of what I'm trying to do, what purpose it's going to be for, and it's this understanding of the plans that I have for what I want to do that are going to give me direction as to which of these tools I'm going to use. Whether I need the drill, whether I'll use the hammer, which saw I'll use, and whether I'll use nails or screws, and so forth. The tools themselves don't direct me. They're tools that I use for whatever purpose I already have in my mind. And in the same way, my drawing tools, the various skills that I've watched videos on and I've practiced, my hatching technique, how to hold a pen, how to draw a straight line, in the same way, these skills, no matter how advanced I've become in practicing and developing them, they don't tell me what to do. They sit there quietly in my mind, waiting for me to decide if I need to use them or not. And I know whether I need to use them or not according to my blueprint of what I'm trying to do, according to my plan in my head for my drawing, for how I want it to look. So merely having these skills, no matter how well developed they are, don't actually guide us into what to do when we draw. And that's why we can have them and yet still look at a blank sheet of paper wanting to start a drawing and not having or not feeling that we have any idea where to start, because these skills were never going to tell us the answer to that question. Now, when I'm constructing something with my woodworking tools and I have a plan, then I know what tools I need, I know what to do and the order in which I do them. But where do I get a plan from when I'm drawing? How do I know which of my drawing tools I need to use? Now, if I'm doing a follow along drawing, there I don't need to know what to use because I'm just using whatever tools the demonstrator is using. But if I'm creating my own original drawing, then my plan, my blueprint has to come from within me. It comes from in here. It doesn't come from the pen in my hand. It comes from my understanding of what the drawing process is and the possibilities that it contains, combined with my own personal preference for creative expression. It comes from this understanding of the process and then my thinking, my plans as to how my drawing might look at the end. For most of us, when we start to draw, particularly since probably copying from a photo is what we most commonly do these days, our understanding of the drawing process is probably limited to a fairly vague, unrecognized, unstated idea of, well, when I draw a drawing from a photo, I'm copying the photo. And so in some way, copying what I see is the limit of my planning, of my blueprint for my finished drawing. But even if this is what I'm thinking my drawing is aiming to be, it's a pretty inadequate plan to do the sort of drawing that's probably going to make me happy. But if I start to draw without a plan, without a purpose for my drawing, without understanding how I'm hoping for it to look at the end, then when I put my pen on paper, I'm really just guessing. I'm really just doing things hoping they work out okay. And if I don't know where and how to start my drawing, I'm probably also going to have problems at the other end, knowing where and how to stop my drawing. Because the answers to all these questions comes from the same place, my understanding of the process of what I'm doing and how that might look filtered through my creative self-expression. So when I started drawing, I know where to start. I'm not staring at a blank sheet of paper because my understanding of my drawing process gives me a fairly strong idea of what I'm trying to do and how I might try to do it, and therefore what tools I'll use from my drawing toolbox, whether I'll be hatching or not, and if so, when and how to do it. And my understanding of the drawing process will also relate to how I'm drawing, what media I'm using, what I'm drawing on, and so forth. All of these things work together for my understanding of the particular drawing process that I will use in this drawing. In the best case scenario, what I do before I start to draw is I try and visualize in my mind the finished drawing. I try to see it in a way before I've drawn it, and then I, sort of can copy the drawing, but it's my drawing. And by being able to see it as best I can in my mind, I can start to make choices about, the best place to start and how to spread out and what tools, what drawing techniques and so forth will be most helpful in creating that drawing at the end of my drawing session. So my visualized finished drawing becomes my plans, my blueprints for my construction. And of course, very often when we make things and we have plans, we end up having to change them because sometimes things aren't quite what we think, or we see possibilities halfway along that we hadn't thought of at the start. And of course, exactly the same is true when we're drawing. Although I may try and visualize as closely as possible in my mind what my finished artwork will look like, if as I'm doing it, new possibilities, new opportunities strike me, I'm going to go with them as well. But it's still this planning in my head that directs what I do, which now tells me what I need to change. It tells me what tools, what drawing techniques I need to use perhaps differently to how I was going to use them, and so forth. So the question is, what is the drawing process? Look, I have dozens of, if not hundreds of videos that either completely or in some measure talk about my understanding of the drawing process for me. There is no one drawing process, and this is something that for me personally has evolved over time as I've tried to think more and more, what am I doing when I put pen on paper? What is the relationship between the reality, whether that reality is something in front of me or whether it's a photo, between whatever that reality is and the marks I put on the paper? What am I trying to do? What am I trying to capture? How does one visual reality flow into a different visual reality? And I often use the word translate as a way of helping to understand what that process is. But this video isn't about going into that. I want to keep this video short because I want to stay focused on what the fundamental problem is. why we end up staring at blank sheets of paper, not knowing how to start when we feel like we've done so much drawing and we've learnt so much and we've studied so hard and we've practiced incessantly already. I feel that there's often an impatience with drawing to just get the pen on the paper, and that this sort of, if you like, more theoretical part of the drawing process is seen as something that's really not very important or very relevant, not very practical, and really something I don't have to worry about. I just have to draw. But in my experience and understanding, I realize that this theoretical aspect has actually become crucial for me for a confident, purposeful start that sets me up for a drawing that's going to look something the way I'd like it to by the end. And that very often I can even visualize it well before the end, and that guides me through the choice of what drawing techniques I need to use and how I need to use them and combine them with other ones. It also tells me, of course, where to stop just as much as it tells me where to start. In my videos where I do a drawing demo, it's why with the voiceovers I try and explain the why. I'm not just saying, look at me do this and do that and do this. I'm trying to explain as best I can in the time I have for at least some of the points why I'm starting here, why I'm moving on to this, why I'm doing the lines, the marks in this way, in this order and so forth. It's all about process, but that process at its core comes from my understanding in the big picture of what I do when I draw. It's how I get from one visual reality to another visual reality. As I said, there is no one answer for the drawing process, and I think really we should be seeking to understand, to think about what we're doing, to ask questions to ourselves, what am I doing? And to ask questions of others who might be more experienced. What are you doing when you're looking at the reference, whatever it is, even if it's in your imagination, that's still where the reference is. That's still based on things I've seen and filed away to draw from at a future date. Whatever the reference is, the question is, how am I going to translate that into this? Because that's going to set me up for the way to do that, for the strategy, for the plan, for the blueprint that I will follow. And I will use all these tools, but the tools in themselves won't tell me what to do, won't guide me. It's my understanding of the process that will do that. I'm laboring the point because I think there is a bit of a, to my mind, impatience about drawing, and I just want to start and I don't want all the blah blah blah, but I've come to realize that it's the blah 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 that sets up my drawings to succeed. And I sincerely hope that this video will give you ideas to start thinking about how you understand drawing process, whether it's based on my understanding or someone else's, doesn't matter, because in the end you will take whatever starting point you have and you will start to evolve it to bring it in line with your own personal creative expression preference. But we need to start somewhere, and starting with someone else's understanding can be a great place to start. It can be a head start place to start, in fact, if you want to speed up the process. But in the end, drawing after drawing, we will start to make it our own. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Look, I hope this has been helpful. If you stare at sheets of paper and think, I don't know where to start, there is an answer. It's not a quick fix answer, but it is one that will set you up for the rest of your drawing life. So I hope you really have success, and if you want to watch some more of my videos, particularly the ones where I talk to camera, they're the ones where I mostly explain more fully how I understand the drawing process. The translation analogy, the drawing the visual effect, all of these things, these all relate to process. And I can't stress how valuable they've been for me, and therefore how valuable I hope they can be for you. But in the end, whatever your drawing experience is, however things work out, whatever process or practice you have, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.